In this section, we're going to cover our Layer 2 devices. We basically can define a Layer 2 network device as a switch or a bridge. Now, interestingly enough, switches and bridges are one and the same. Now, if you do a little research, you might find that the difference defined by Cisco and some of the other networking companies is that a switch is a multi-port bridge and is actually faster than a bridge. But honestly, they work in the same manner, and the term switch and bridge is used interchangeably. Because switches operate at layer 2 of the OSI model, they define our collision domains. Because if you remember, we mentioned that CSMA CD is in the MAC sublayer of layer 2. So by adding our devices or our users to ports on the switch, we are isolating them from contention domains with other users. Switches actually have the ability to look at the data as it travels across the network, which is why we consider them an intelligent network device. They make their routing decisions based on MAC addresses or physical addresses of our network devices. So let's take a look at the operation of a switch. In our example here, we have 3 ports on our switch, and we have a computer plugged in to each one of those ports. Now, what this means as far as performance is concerned is that computer 1 is on its own collision or contention domain. So it doesn't have to compete with anyone for network access. If we were to send information from computer 1 through the switch to computer 3, the switch would go through a routing evaluation process. And what it's going to do is it's going to check the destination of the data packet. And it's going to say, well, coming into port 1, this data packet is destined for the MAC address that we see here. And it's going to check what's called its routing table. And it's going to scan down its routing table until it finds the MAC address that is listed on the destination portion of our data packet. Once it locates that MAC address, it's going to come across its routing table and find the interface or port that computer is located on. And then it's going to forward the information out, in this example, interface number 2 on the switch. Now, the reason that this is important is that our data is not unnecessarily forwarded to other computers on the network. If this device had been a hub, then computer 3 and computer 1 would have received that information as well. So you'll often hear of switches being referred to as layer 2 filtering devices, because they basically serve to filter traffic from going onto segments that it's not intended for. So they build their list of MAC addresses in their routing table based on the traffic that they see passing over the network. So when computer 1 sends its first piece of information to the switch realizes, hey, I've got this computer with this particular MAC address, and it's located on port or interface number 1. And it's going to record that information in its MAC address table. So our switches will dynamically build their database and forward the traffic using that information. In our next section, we'll talk about routers.